Let's get ready to rumble!
What up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Throwdown Thursday. Tons of football action going on this weekend. Let's go ahead and start by recapping the NFL. In the Thursday night game, the Packers housed the 49ers. So let's go ahead and bump up the Packers a half point. We'll knock down the Niners to 0. The Niners are still a tricky team with all their injuries. Good luck betting on that team. The Falcons took down the Broncos in the game where the Falcons pretty much controlled it the whole way, and the Broncos scored some garbage points later on. Falcons got the cover, so we'll bump them a half point, slide them a half point. Next up, the Bills absolutely handled the Seahawks in a high-scoring affair. Bills get the upset, so we'll go ahead and knock them up a full point. And the Seahawks got upset, so we'll knock them down a half point. The Titans owned the Bears until the Bears finally started getting points in the fourth quarter. The Bears did hold the Derrick Henry to only 68 yards rushing, but not enough. This game was basically a push, so we're not going to change the power rankings too much. After the Ravens got beat by the Steelers a week ago, they come back and get a really good win against a really good Colts team. We'll go ahead and knock the Ravens up a half point, and we'll knock the Colts down a half point. Chiefs barely edge out the Panthers. And so since the Chiefs didn't get the cover, we'll knock them down a half point. And we'll knock the Panthers back up a half. Vikings put it to the Lions, controlling pretty much all that game. Dalvin Cook with another 200-yard rushing game. Vikes up a half point. I'll have them flip-flop with the Lions here. Giants get a close win with another Washington quarterback having a gruesome leg injury. I guess the Giants are better than the Skins. We'll go ahead and flip them back to where they're supposed to be. Even though Jake Luton came in and lit it up for the Jags, it still wasn't enough to get past the Texans. Texans did not get the cover, though, so we're bumping them down a half point. And I guess we'll knock the Jags up. We'll see how long this Jake Luton story can go. Raiders take down the Chargers, which was pretty much a pick'em game to find out who's the better team. Steelers take their foot off the gas and barely beat the Cowboys. Steelers getting knocked down a half point for laying a turd. And the Cowboys get a half point bump for showing up finally, even though they lost. Dolphins edge out a close win over the Cardinals in a very high scoring affair. I was definitely wrong about Tua. I thought he was going to come out and do nothing, but he had a great game along with Kyler Murray. With the Dolphins 5-3, we're going to knock them up a point. Cards getting upset. We're going to knock them down a full point. And the Saints absolutely waxed the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're going to knock the Saints up half point. We got to knock the Bucs down to 6. I do still think the Bucs are a better overall team, but that game was definitely going the Saints' way. And the Jets almost get their first win of the season, but the Patriots come back to take the victory. Jets do get the cover, so we'll knock them up a half point, and the Pats are going to slide a half point. And just like that, the Ravens are right back ahead of the Steelers after the Steelers just beat them. But here are the new power rankings going into Week 10. Definitely feel free to leave comments down below if you got any disagreements with anything that I have going on here. But hey, here's Dat Boy's power rankings for the week. I went 4-3 in the NFL last week. I thought the Jags would go under. I didn't think Jake Luton would be playing that well. I thought the Dolphins and Cards would go under because Tua coming in being new and both defenses being sneaky good. But nope, that was a high-scoring affair. I thought the Skins had a good spot coming off a bye and catching the Giants in a short week. But nope, the Skins are that bad. The Saints look good for me, though. At Baltimore, Indy under, that looked good. I knew Phillip Rivers wasn't going to score on this defense. Obviously, the Ravens took care of business. And in a pick'em game, these are always a prideful pick. It was Raiders-Chargers. I feel like the Raiders were a better team, and I got that one right. So 4-3 on the weekend, climbing back in the positive direction. All right, so here are the lines for Week 10. All right, for Thursday night action, we got the Titans hosting the Colts. Colts got the 7th best scoring offense and 7th best yards per play. Indy has 5th. They're about average on offense. Defensively, it's flip-flop. Indy is the 3rd best scoring defense, while Tennessee is kind of right in the middle of the pack in scoring. For the Colts, Hilton is probable, but Doyle is out. For the Titans, Clowney is probable. Their tight end, Pruitt, is out. They're also missing Adoree Jackson. So at the Colts at -2.5 plus half for their injuries. I got Titans at -4 plus 1.5 for their injuries, but -1 for being at home. My spread on the game are Titans -1.5. Vegas opened up this game at 1. Now it's either a point or a pick 'em pretty much wherever you go. I think the Titans are definitely a better team, so if this game is coming down to a pick 'em, even though my numbers don't have a huge edge, I would still probably take the Titans. Although this game is pretty close, it definitely could go either way. There's not going to be a whole lot of defensive pressure on Rivers to throw a bunch of interceptions, so he might have a game. If I do pick this, I'm going to be leaning on the Titans, but we'll see what happens. Next up, we got the Packers hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Green Bay has one of the best offenses. Jacksonville has one of the worst offenses. Packers have a decent defense, and Jacksonville just has a bad team. Jacksonville still has a bunch of people on the IR. Shalnot is questionable. Green Bay has some offensive linemen banged up and some corners. Jair Alexander is questionable. All right, so I got the Jags at plus 7.5, then plus 3 for their injuries, with Minshew being out. I got the Packers at -6, plus 1 for their injuries, but then -1 for being at home. My spread on this game is 16.5 Packers. Vegas opened up this line at -11. Now it's up to -13. I'm still thinking about taking the Packers here. It's almost a definite blowout. It's just tough with these double-digit spreads and calling a blowout. There's no way Jake Luton's going to keep throwing for 300 yards every game. Green Bay is definitely going to have their way with Jacksonville's defense. Maybe this game just goes into the over instead. Green Bay scoring points regardless. Next up at the Lions hosting the Skins. Skins have one of the worst offenses in the league. The Lions are somewhere in the middle of the pack. Defensively, Washington's scoring defense is pretty good, and their yards per play is pretty good. Meanwhile, Detroit's defense is very suspect. Alex Smith is starting for the Skins on Sunday. Lions got some questionables. Galladay is still on the IR. So I got the Skins at +7, +1 for their injuries. I got Lions at +2 for their injuries, then -1 for being at home. So my spread on the game is -5. This game opened up with the Lions -6. Now it's moved down to -3.5. I mean, this Skins team is bad, and I guess my numbers kind of give an edge for the Lions, but taking 3.5 with the Lions. I mean, laying any points with the Lions isn't really great right now, but 3.5 isn't good either. I mean, if somehow this went below a field goal, maybe I would take the Lions, but other than that, I mean, the Skins can definitely beat this Lions team. This Lions team is always inconsistent all the time. Probably going to stay off this one. Next up, we got the Browns hosting the Texans. Texans aren't a great scoring offense, but they do get a lot of passing yards and yards per play. Browns are pretty average on scoring. They're one of the worst passing teams in the league, but they are one of the best rushing teams in the league. And then defensively, both teams are pretty bad. Browns have a little bit higher yards per play. They do have Myles Garrett, but the rest of the defense isn't very good. Texans looks like they're getting some people back. Merciless is probable. Roby is probable. Hargraves is probable. Browns look like they got Hooper for the game. Chubb looks like he's coming back as well. I got the Texans at +3, +0.5 point for their injuries. I got the Browns at -1, +1 for their injuries, -1 for being at home. My spread on this game are Browns by 4.5. This game opened up with Cleveland -2.5. Now it's gone to -3, -3.5 in some places. Yeah, it's one of those games I wish I would have got in on Cleveland early, trying to get it before a field goal. But now that it's up to a field goal, even 3.5 in some places, I don't really feel great about laying points with Cleveland here. I mean, their defense really isn't that good, and Deshaun Watson will come back and get garbage points later. Also, with Cleveland's passing offense not being that great as is, and not having Odell Beckham Jr., this game really could go either way. I think Cleveland has more talent overall. I don't feel great about laying over a field goal with the Browns in this situation. Next up, we got the Giants hosting the Eagles. Both teams are pretty poor on offense. While the Eagles are one of the best in yards per play on defense, their scoring defense really isn't that great, and the Giants are just kind of middle of the pack defense. Alshon Jeffrey's questionable. Zach Ertz is out. Darius Slay is probable. Bunch of other people on the IR for the Eagles. For the Giants, Tate is probable. Pettis is probable. So I got the Eagles at +0.5 point and then +2 for their injuries. Then I got the Giants at +6, +0.5 for their injuries, -1 for being at home. My spread on the game are Eagles by 3. Vegas opened this up with the Giants at +2.5. Now it's at 3.5, so pretty much the same as what I got. Yeah, these are two teams that are very unimpressive. I'd like to have an edge with the Giants at home, but they just don't really have anything this year. Obviously, they're out Saquon Barkley. The Eagles are pretty banged up in a lot of different positions, but I don't think any major position seemed to be too decimated. I feel like this line's right. It's probably going to be an Eagles 3-point win, to be honest. Next up, we got the Panthers hosting Tampa Bay. Bucks are still in the top 10 in total score. Carolina's in the bottom 10, although their yards per play tell a different story. Defensively, Tampa Bay is also number 9 in total score, 3 in yards per play. The Panthers pretty much just have an average defense. Tampa Bay is relatively healthy, no new injuries. Okung is questionable for the Panthers. A couple other players questionable. McCaffrey is out again after coming back last week. I got the Bucks at -6. I got the Panthers at +4.5. +1 for their injuries, but -1 for being at home. My spread on the game are Bucks by 10.5. Vegas opened up this game with the Panthers as a 6.5 point home dog, but now that line's been moved to 5.5. I'm taking Tampa Bay in this situation. This is a perfect spot for them. They just got blown out on national TV, and the Panthers just kept it close against the Chiefs. So public perception and recency bias is definitely on that right now. But at the end of the day, Tampa Bay, when they're healthy like this, I mean, obviously teams have a bad game every once in a while in the NFL. You just can't explain it. But overall, from a firepower standpoint, Tampa Bay is way better. The Panthers just lost McCaffrey again. If they can get any sort of pass rush on Bridgewater, it's a definite blowout. If Tampa Bay is able to score fairly easily on the Panthers, I don't see Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers being able to keep up with the scoring. Next up, we got the Dolphins hosting the Chargers. So the Chargers get a lot of yards on offense. They just can't punch it in the score that often. Meanwhile, Miami's different. They're 10th in scoring offense, but all their other offensive numbers are not impressive at all. Defensively, the Chargers don't do very well. And Miami's scoring defense is 4th, but they give up a lot of passing and rushing yards. I definitely thought Miami had a sneaky good defense, but I might be wrong. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of talent out there. Blaga is questionable for the Chargers. Still plenty of players on the IR. Bosa's questionable. Dolphins are missing a defensive tackle. They got a couple players questionable. I got the Chargers at +4, then +1.5 for their injuries. I got Dolphins at -1, +0.5 for their injuries. So my spread on the game are Dolphins by 6. Vegas opened this up with Dolphins -2.5, and it's pretty much stayed like that. It really is almost unexplainable how well Miami's doing, being 5-3 right now. They did just get a good win against a good Cardinals team. They just beat the Rams the week before that. I don't feel like laying a lot of points with this Miami team. Even though they've been playing well, they just don't have the star power. This Chargers team can't complete games. If this game's under a field goal, that's like the perfect number. So I might take the Dolphins if it stays like that. Next up, we got Vegas hosting the Broncos. Denver has nothing to write home about on offense. Vegas is a pretty mediocre offensive team. Defensively, both teams are pretty bad. Broncos are still pretty banged up. Bouye is probable. Their center is probable, coming off the cooties. Spencer is questionable. Fant is questionable. Jerry Jeudy's questionable. Raiders have a bunch of players questionable. I got the Broncos at +3.5, +1.5 for their injuries. I got the Raiders at -2, +0.5 for their injuries, but -1 for being at home. I got the Raiders by a touchdown and a half in this one. This line opened up with Vegas -3.5, and now it's moved up to Vegas -4.5. Yeah, this Denver team is not really good at all. They got a bunch of injuries. They're not really playing for anything anymore. Vegas is definitely fighting for a playoff spot. They've proved they can, play with the best teams. The Raiders have beaten the Chiefs and the Saints this year. I just think the Raiders are a lot better than the Broncos. I don't really mind laying points with the Raiders right now. Next up, we got the Cards hosting the Bills. The Bills have been pretty mediocre on offense. The Cards are actually 6th in total offense right now. Mostly rushing yards, though, not passing, with Kyler just skirting around all over the place. Defensively, the Bills really haven't been that impressive. 19th in total scoring defense. Cards are 8th in total score. They've pretty much been around that mark the whole year. For the Bills, they got tons of people questionable. For the Cards, they have a bunch of questionable players as well. So I got the Bills at -4.5. I got the Cards at -1, then -1 for being at home. My spread on the game is actually Bills by 2.5. But Vegas actually has the Cards as the favorite. It's opened at -3. Now it's anywhere from -2 to -1. I mean, I can see why Vegas would have the Cards as a favorite. They do seem to have better stats on offense and defense. I think the public is really on the Cards right now. I think people love what Kyler Murray's doing, running the ball around and things like that. I mean, if the Bills are getting points against the Cards, I'll take it. I'll risk Kyler Murray running for 300 yards. I just think the Bills are a better overall team. Next up, we got the Steelers hosting the Bengals. Even though the Bengals are passing the ball around with Joe Burrow, they're still 20th in total score on offense. It's actually the same for their defense, too. They're 20th in scoring defense, 30th in yards per play. Pitt is 5 in total score and 7th in yards per play. Cincinnati still has plenty of players on the IR and questionable. Ross is questionable. Mixon's questionable. Steelers have Watt questionable. Smith-Schuster questionable. All right, so we got the Bengals at plus 4.5, -1 for coming off a bye, and then +1 for their injuries. And I got the Steelers at -7. +1.5 for their injuries, -1 for being at home. I got the Steelers by 11. Vegas opened up this game with Steelers by 9.5. Now it's been bet down to -7, -7.5 some places. Yo, if I can get the Steelers only at beating the Bengals by a touchdown, I'm going to do it. I know the Steelers kind of let their foot off against the Cowboys. I mean, who wouldn't? That team looks terrible. They got a 9th string quarterback. There's no way this team's going to win. But a divisional opponent in the Bengals, they're looking to put them away. Only a touchdown, though. If it's over a touchdown, Joe Burrow can definitely get some garbage points at the end to make it close. But touchdown or less, I'm taking the Steelers. Next up, we got the Rams hosting the Seahawks. Seahawks, best offense in the league. Rams, average offense. Defensively, Seahawks might be one of the worst defenses in the league, although there's still the Jags and the Cowboys and the Jets out there. And the Rams have one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the league. 2nd in total score, #1 in yards per play. Seahawks have tons of players questionable. Kupp is probable for the Rams. A few other players on the IR are out. So we got the Seahawks at -5 and then +2 for their injuries. I got the Rams at -4.5, -1 for coming off a bye, -1 for being at home, but +1 for their injuries. So I got the Rams by 2.5. Vegas opened up this game at Rams -1. Now it's anywhere from -1.5 to -2, depending on where you look. My numbers are pretty close on this one. I got 2.5. They have it anywhere from 1.5 to 2. I don't want to bet against Russell Wilson. Even though the Rams have an amazing defense with Aaron Donald up there running around, you still got to be able to catch Russell Wilson to stop him, which no one seems to do. But the Seahawks defense is bad. And the Rams, if they can get control of ball on offense, that's probably the best defense against Russell Wilson. Just keep him off the field. That's definitely a possibility. I know a lot of these Seattle games have gone over. And I think this might be the game, especially with the Rams coming off a bye, that the under might be the best play in this one. I haven't seen the total yet, so we'll take a look at that on Game Time. Next up, we got the Saints hosting the 49ers. Saints are 4th in scoring offense. Niners are 18th. Defensively, both these teams have been pretty average. The Niners maybe slightly better. San Francisco has their whole team in the blue tent. Coleman's questionable. Kittle's still on the IR. Deebo Samuel's probable, so they'll get one guy back. Saints are still missing a guard on suspension. That's about it. All right, so we got the Niners at 0 and then +2.5 for their injuries, -1 for getting the extended break playing on last Thursday. I got the Saints at -5.5, +0.5 for their injuries, -1 for being at home. I got Saints at -8.5. Looks like Vegas opened up this game with Saints -7. Now it's up to -9, -10. Yeah, they definitely like the Saints too. I'm probably not going to take that big of a spread with the Saints. That seems kind of crazy. And again, with this Niners team, you just don't know what you're going to get. Seems like a good spot if San Francisco had some key players back to cover a big spread like this, especially against a team like New Orleans who's had trouble covering big spreads this year. I just don't feel like betting on this San Francisco team. They're an absolute wild card. For the Sunday night team, we got the Pats hosting the Ravens. Baltimore is 8th in scoring offense, but they're 1 in rushing and 31 in passing. Defensively, Baltimore is #1 in total score, 6th in yards per play. Pats pretty much have an average defense. They're pretty low in yards per play, though. Calais Campbell is out for the Ravens. Ingram's questionable. Jimmy Smith still questionable. Bunch of players questionable. Their tackle Stanley is out for the season. Marlon Humphrey's probable, though. Edelman is out. Gilmore's questionable. Bunch of other players still questionable. All right, so I got the Ravens at -7.5, +2 for their injuries. I got the Pats at +4.5, +2.5 for their injuries. -1 for being at home, but +1 for coming off Monday night. So I got the Ravens by 12.5. Vegas opened up this game with Pats at +6.5. Now they've been bumped down to a touchdown. I know Baltimore lost to the Steelers, but Baltimore's still probably one of the best teams in the league, if not top 3 when it comes to talking about Super Bowl contenders. The Patriots have been bad this year. They're not a good team. It doesn't matter how good Belichick can coach. He just doesn't have talent. He even admitted it himself. So either he doesn't have confidence in his players or it's just true. Baltimore has a lot more talent. Gilmore coming back is great.
for the Pats, but Baltimore's a running offense. They're going to run the ball. And I don't know how the Patriots are going to stop that. Cam Newton, who does he have to get the ball to nowadays? They're already short on talent as it was. Now they're missing 2 receivers. They're missing their best player, Edelman, on offense. A touchdown on the road isn't a great situation to bet on, but I think the Ravens are really good. I think the Patriots are pretty underwhelming. And if this exact same team had a Jets or Jags logo on their helmets, this spread might be double digits. I'm definitely going to look at betting on the Ravens this weekend for sure. And the Monday night game, we got the Bears hosting the Vikings. All right, so the Vikes are 12th in total score, and they're actually 1 in yards per play. Defensively, though, the Vikings aren't very good. However, Chicago Bears defense has been pretty stout all year, being in the top 10. Looks like the Vikings still had a bunch of players still on the IR. Bears have a few questionables. Looks like a D end is out and a tackle is out. So we have the Vikes at +1.5, then +1 for their injuries. I got the Bears at -2.5, +2 for their injuries, but -1 for being at home. My spread on this game are Bears by 3. Vegas opened up with the Bears at -2. Now it's been flipped to Bears +3. I can definitely see why it's been flipped to Minnesota. Minnesota's just beat the Packers a couple weeks ago, just beat the Lions. They're 5-3 against the spread this year. However, Dalvin Cook's been playing really well the last couple of games, and he's about to run into a Chicago Bears defense that held Derrick Henry to 68 yards rushing, which isn't anything special. If the Vikings can't get Dalvin Cook going, are they really going to rely on Kirk Cousins to lead them to victory? Looks like it's going to be a low-scoring game. Again, I don't know how the Bears are going to score, but it seems like they find a way. I definitely like the Bears getting points in this spot. I think they're a better overall team than the Vikings. It's going to be a game-time decision. The Bears haven't looked great the last couple weeks, which might be a perfect spot for them, but definitely leaning on the Bears this weekend. All right, here's what I'm looking at for this upcoming week. We got a lot of big favorites like the Bucks and the Steelers and the Ravens. A couple sneaky dogs like the Bills and the Bears. I don't know if I'm going to take all these, but I'm definitely going to look at these for Sunday. All right, y'all, that's it for the NFL. Let's take a look at what's going on in college football. Hey, DB, what's up with college football? Definitely not my bankroll. Holy cow, I'm getting killed. I don't know why I laid so many points with the U. They couldn't get it done. West Virginia, I just kind of picked them out of nowhere. They got lucky. Michigan's garbage. Georgia lost another big one. South Carolina is not the same team as Texas A&M. And Clemson had the game and still couldn't get it done against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So now I'm a whopping 12-27-1 on college football this year. I am so glad that this is the year I started recording all my picks. This is embarrassing. Still going to pick games anyway. Let's go. Cincinnati is a 27.5 point favorite over East Carolina. I definitely bet against Cincinnati twice and got burnt both times. I'm not betting against them anymore. And shoot, I might as well take him as a 4-touchdown favorite. They've been blowing out all these good teams by 4 touchdowns. Why not beat a bad team like East Carolina? West Virginia is a slight favorite over TCU. I mean, those teams seem about the same to me. Maybe the value's picking TCU, but I'm staying off the Big 12. The U is catching points against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just lost to Liberty. I just lost money on the Hurricanes. Probably going to stay off. Both these teams are just kind of average. Indiana is only a touchdown favorite over Michigan State. Indiana's already beaten Michigan and Penn State, but maybe beating Michigan really isn't that big of a deal because Michigan State beat them too. However, Michigan State just got clobbered by Iowa the week before. I think this Indiana team might actually be pretty decent. This Michigan State team is scoring like 20 points on offense and giving up 37 on defense. Other than their Michigan game, they haven't looked that great. Florida is a 17.5 point favorite over Arkansas. Arkansas is my underdog darling this year. I haven't lost with them when I bet on them as an underdog so far. Florida is coming off a big game against Georgia. Definitely a great letdown spot against a conference opponent. I think I'm going to take Arkansas on all the points here. Wisconsin is a 4.5, 5 point favorite over Michigan. Michigan looks terrible. I mean, Wisconsin hasn't played since the end of October. They're 1-0 right now and haven't played since, so they're rested. They might be rusty. Who knows? But Michigan's looked bad in the time that they've played, so as long as the spread's under a touchdown, let's bet on Wisconsin. Michigan sucks. Ole Miss is an 11 point favorite over South Carolina. That seems pretty steep. I don't know if Ole Miss is a 2-score favorite against anybody in the SEC. South Carolina definitely let me down last week, but they did beat Florida earlier this year. Ole Miss can score, but they don't have a great overall team. I'll have to look to see if there's any other key injuries. I didn't see anything for South Carolina, but this spread seems way too big. Under further investigation, I'm probably going to take South Carolina this weekend. So Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama all seem to be on bye this week, so not a lot of big games to look at. Here are the games that I'm looking at so far for the NCAA. Again, the best strategy, take whatever picks I have and pick against them, and you'll be a rich human being. Gambling. All right, that's it for college football this week. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the aftermath of this election stuff. And we probably won't touch on that again for a while. All right, so Biden pretty much won the election. We'll see what happens in the courts, but other than until it's official, it looks like Biden is going to be the president of the United States. What's interesting, though, is the 2024 election. Biden's actually not the favorite to be the Democratic candidate. It's actually Kamala Harris. I guess they feel like Biden's not going to live long enough to be reelected. AOC is right behind Biden. Then they got Yang, Beto O'Rourke. Michelle Obama is always on this list, even though she's never officially announced that she's going to run. And then for the Republican candidate for the 2024 election, Trump and Pence are actually the leaders, although I don't think those are good bets. Trump mania has been very interesting, especially for the media over the last 4 years, but I think people are tired of it in 4 years. And then the favorites to win for the 2024 election, the odds have it as Harris and Trump right now. Looks like Trump Jr. might be a candidate as well. Probably a little bit too early to tell what's going to happen, but here's what that looks like for now. With the executive branch switching back to Democrat, it's kind of 50-50 in my opinion who is going to win the next one. We'll see how things play out in these next couple years. All right, so that's it this week for Throwdown Thursday. Making up a little bit of ground in the NFL. Still losing a lot of ground in college football. At least my election bet kind of offset all that. Good luck to everybody this weekend. May the gambling gods bless you. And until next time, have a good one, y'all.